Chef Buck here, and today we're going to make a super easy one-pot mole.
Mole?
Mole can be very simple or complex. It doesn't matter. You can put anything that you want in a mole. The main thing that you want to have is some kind of dried pepper. I wouldn't make a mole without these. You know, this is key. And this is the kind of pepper that I like to have as an ancho, which is just a poblano pepper. In fact, let me grab some peppers. Because I got a big bag of peppers here, I got to use some of these peppers up. Because using stuff up is a great thing to do with a mole. So I'm going to be using stuff up. But this here is a poblano pepper. And once a poblano pepper is dried, then it's called an ancho. But this is the same thing. I like to bend this bag and get some softer peppers because they're easier to handle if they're a little pliable. Some of them are like overly dry. So I like them when they're a little more easier to manipulate. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to de-stem. So I'm going to pull the stem out of here and put it in my what is this? This is my compost. And then there's a lot of seeds in here. We don't want any of the seeds. So you just open it up like a purse and get rid of all your seeds. And some of them will be stuck in there, but you don't have to be militant about it. You know, if some of the seeds make their way into your mole, that's just fine. That's just character. You can find these peppers, you know, sometimes they'll be in the ethnic international section of the grocery store. Sometimes they'll be hanging over in the spice section. In fact,
Or produce.
That's good. That's good, camera girl. Here's a treat. Let me get another pepper here. Get the seeds out there. So this will be a second ancho pepper. Now I'll go ahead and use this New Mexico pepper as well. I think the last time I used the New Mexico peppers, I put 2 of these in there and it was like pretty hot. So I'll just use 1 here. But just all these seeds in here, you just don't want to get those into your mole unless you're going to grind up your seeds, which I'm not going to do any grinding in this mole recipe. It's just a super simple recipe that I'm making. I'm not doing anything too fancy. I mean, you can have your whole stove filled with pots doing all kinds of different complex plates spinning and rabbits out of hats and just a giant magic show to make your mole. Or you can just do it in one pot, super simple, which is what I'm doing. So now we've got a nice little bit of pepper there. I'm not going to use a lot of oil because, like I said, this is one pot, so I don't want to have a bunch of oil I have to get rid of. While my oil's heating up, let me chop up a couple other things over here. I got some habanero peppers I need to get rid of.
Chef Buck's gotta have it spicy.
Yeah. Well, we got to get rid of these doohickeys. And I'm just going to cut them in half and get these seeds and stems out of here. And that's all I'm going to do. And you don't have to put in any fresh peppers. You can put in whatever you like that's fresh.
It's like spaghetti sauce. You can make it really have depth.
Yes, there are a zillion, billion different things you could put in mole. So there I got me some peppers. So I think my oil is hot enough. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in my peppers right here. And I'll just let these sizzle in the bottom of the pan here for a few moments. And I haven't chopped these up into any kind of smaller pieces because everything eventually is going to go in the blender. So all you need for this mole, to make a homemade mole, is a pot and a blender. And then I'm going to use 1.5 onions. You can really be flexible on the amount of ingredients that you use. And I'm just giving this stuff a rough chop because, like I said, it's all going to go in the blender eventually. Come over here, camera girl. Stirring my peppers around a little bit. For thickener in your mole, you can use nuts. So I'm going to put some almonds in here. Boom, boom, boom. But I'm not going to use all almonds. I'm going to use some peanuts too, because peanuts are a little less expensive than almonds. So we'll throw that in there, and I got these spread on one part of the pot. And that'll add a little flavor. And you can also use bread as a thickener. I got some old heels in the freezer. There you go, just a couple of old bread heels. So we're stirring around our nuts. We're stirring around our peppers. What else? Let me go ahead and throw some of my fresh ingredients in here. I got some garlic here. This is that many cloves. Now you can also add some dried fruit in here. Let's see, I got some apricots. But these are expensive, aren't they?
Yes.
So we're not going to use apricots. Camera girl doesn't like dark raisins. So I'm going to use these raisins up. So we'll throw some raisins in there. What about some prunes? These are pitted prunes. Theoretically, I'm going to give them a squeeze to make sure there's no pits in there. What else can we put in here? Hey, I got a banana. We got this little dinky-doo banana. Because you could put any kind of fruit, you could put literally anything you want into this mole. Have you ever bought these little bananas? These are the perfect size. But this one's getting a little long in the tooth, so we'll throw that in there. So we got all these flavors sauteing away. We're getting a little bit of color on them. I'm going to put a little dried cumin in here. You could use cumin seeds if you want, but then you'd probably want to toast those up and grind them beforehand. I got a little ground oregano. This is just oregano powder, but you can use the flakes if you want. Come on over here, camera girl. I'm going to slice up a few tomatoes. Got a bad spot on this tomato. Boom, boom. Use that up before it goes bad. Oops. We're just going to give this stuff a rough chop and toss it in our pot. Now that's a lot of goodness, right? Alright, so I think we got a little bit of a sear on a lot of this stuff here. Now I could put, just swing around there, chicken broth, because I want to add a little bit of liquid to this here. But I'm not going to use chicken broth because I don't have to. I already got a boatload of flavor there, so I'm just going to use water. Now when I'm putting the water in here, I want to make sure that I don't put too much. I just want to put enough in here to let these ingredients cook down and let these peppers rehydrate. And plus these other ingredients are going to release a lot of moisture. So I want just barely enough to cover up these ingredients. Here's a thought. Let me throw a little bit of salt in here, just in case. So I'll stir this salt around, and then that's it. I don't need a lot of extra seasoning in here because all of these other ingredients are going to bring a lot of flavor. So now I'll just cover up, let it bubble away, and we'll check on it in just a little bit. You can see how much liquid is going to come out of those other ingredients. Beep, 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 beep. All right, so it's just been bubbling away for a couple of minutes. You can see how much liquid has already been released. So I'm going to go ahead and lower it down to medium low. Give it a nice stir. You can see how everything's covered up by liquid here. And those onions still have a lot more moisture to let out. So this is plenty wet enough. But I'm going to go ahead and cover it up. And I'm going to go ahead and let it simmer away for about a half hour. We'll check on it then. Beep, 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 beep. So it has been about a half an hour. And I have stirred this a couple of times. And I think it has cooked down enough. Now if I had more liquid in here, I could let it cook uncovered and cook off some of that water. Or I could just save it and use it as a broth. But I intentionally, just put as little liquid in here as I had to. I'll go ahead and pour some of this liquid off here because I definitely don't want to put more liquid than I need to in the blender. I just want to add what I desire. And here's my toast. Remember the toast? Let's go ahead and toast it up a little bit more. And we'll add some of that into our mix here. Well, let me see if I can get it in here without making too much of a mess. Blend up half of it. In fact, let me throw one of my pieces of toast in here from earlier, because that's going to add a thickener. It's going to make our stuff a little more pasty. Now one thing I didn't add when it was cooking was chocolate. Like I could have threw some dark chocolate in here and made it kind of a chocolatey mole. And a lot of times when you see a mole and it's super dark, it's because it's got chocolate in there. But chocolate is for dessert. Alrighty, let me give this a little bit of a pulsey pulse. put the rest of this in here. Get the other half in here. So I got all of it out of here. Probably will add some of my liquid, but I just don't want it to be too liquidy when I put it in here. And it's super duper thick. So I could put my other heel in here if I wanted to, but I think I'm not going to because it's pretty thick already. So I add just a little bit more of the liquid in there and stir it up. Well, I think that looks smooth enough. Man, that is so thick.
Yay!
Now, if I wanted to, see, I don't have a whole lot of liquid here, but if I wanted to, I could add a little bit more to it to thin it up. And probably when I end up using this for whatever dish I'm going to use it for, I'll probably add a little bit of liquid to it. But this here, you can definitely use this. And if you had put too much water in here earlier or more water than you needed, then you could just save it and use it as a vegetable broth. This is a batch of chana masala I just made. And this batch of chana masala is actually a little darker than what I usually get because I had used some of the broth from the last time I made some mole. So I'll put this in a little bottle and save this because this is like liquid gold. It's like an espresso shot. We can have that for breakfast. That'll wake you up. So now we've got a nice thick mole. Ah, it is so good. It is not nearly as spicy as you would think. You're a little sensitive to heat. Now you go ahead now. It's hot, so be careful putting your finger in there. But go ahead and give it a taste and tell me how spicy that is. It's not too...
No,
it's not spicy, is it? I mean,
it hits. Yeah, it hits a little bit.
It's got a little bit of heat, but it's not like it's not
that's
inedible.
Delicious.
Exactly, it's
And
super
I like
duper
it thicker.
tasty.
I like it thicker where we're.
But as you can see, it's super easy to make. You know, we did it basically in one pot, so it doesn't. It doesn't have to be a big extravaganza like that sentence that I just barely was able to say. But there you have it. Mole, you can use it in all different kinds of ways, and it freezes very well. You can make a double recipe of this. You can make a triple recipe. You can get a big pot and make a huge pot of it.
This is huge.
That's not even going to be 2 bottles. You know, I've got 2 bottles right here, but that's not even going to fill up both of those bottles.
But yeah, but it's a lot. But you know what? This has sort of a chocolatey flavor even without the chips. And you don't have to have the sweet.
Yeah, it's
because
definitely a
of the
very
charge.
rich. I wouldn't know, is it chocolatey? I guess because of the peppers, it sort of has that smoky, you know, sort of chocolatey flavor, but not ruined by actual chocolate.
So we finished and we can eat now?
Oh, what do you want to eat? What are we going to have? You want to do the potato with that on it? Okay, I guess we can do that. I guess we're having potatoes for lunch with mole. Camera girl's already wandered off, so I guess we're finished. You know, with the prep and all this stuff, we got a nice mole here in 45 minutes, something like that. I'll have a recipe over at myfoodchannel.com. You can sort of use that as a loose framework. Make a mole. Tell me what you think. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the future. Bye-bye.